Okay, hopefully your quiz went well today. We're now going to look at another formula, which is pretty similar to the formula that we've been using. It's called the present value formula. So it gives you a definition here. Present value is the principal P that must be invested today, so right now, to obtain the given amount in the future. In the formula, we see this as a variable called PV. So again, we're no longer calling it the principal, we're calling it the present value. So usually we're given an amount that we want to have at the end of the investment. So for example, let's say you wanted to buy a car and a car costs $10,000 and you have 2 years to save up for this. How much do you need to put in order to get that amount at the end? So again, here we have our formula. So we're going to add this to our formula sheet here, or your formulas. PV equals A bracket 1 plus I to the exponent n. So our first question here says, how much should Dan invest today if he wants to have $10,000 in 5 years? The compounding period is semi-annually at 6 3/4%. Okay, so my first step here is I'm going to be writing down the formula here. So PV equals A over 1 plus I to the exponent of n. Okay, so if I look at this, my present value, I don't know. My amount at the end, he wants to have 10,000 at the end, so my A is equal to 10,000. My N is equal to 5. Now, if I look here, the compounding period is semi-annually. So we looked at this yesterday. What do I do with N? I multiply that by 2, which gives me 10, so N is 10. And then I look at I is equal to, well, 6 3/4, again, 6 3/4, I can write as 6.75. So I take 6.75, change that to a decimal, so 0.0675 divided by 2. And I'm going to leave that answer there because that's a pretty long decimal, and I want my answer to be exact. So when I plug all of this into my formula, it will look something like this. Present value is equal to 10,000 divided by bracket 1 plus 0.0675 divided by 2 to the exponent of 10. Okay, so you can plug that whole thing into your calculator. 10,000 divided by bracket 1 plus 0.0675 divided by 2 bracket to the exponent of 10. And we get here that the present value we should have is 7,175.38 when I round that. So I should have $7,175 today if I want $10,000 in 5 years. Now I believe you have the question at the end. It says, how much interest will he earn? Okay, so interest again here is calculated by taking my final amount, subtract here my P, my principal, or in other words, my present value. So I is equal to 10,000, subtract 7,175.38. Which gives us $2,824.62. So that's how much money and interest we're earning over a 5-year period, which would be nice if interest rates were like that, but they're not that high, unfortunately. Okay, so we're going to do another example. I filled it in there. So our next example here, it says an investment earns 4.5% compounded quarterly. Determine the present value of $1,000 3 years from now. Okay, so I'm going to write my present value formula is equal to A bracket 1 plus I to the exponent of n. I'm reading an investment earns 4.5% compounded quarterly. So my I is equal to 0.045 divided by 4. That's where the quarterly comes in. Okay, my N will be 3 years from now. So I take 3 and I times it by 4, which gives me 12. Okay, now the question there says determine the present value of $1,000 3 years from now. So that's saying we have $1,000 3 years from now. So in 3 years, we are going to have $1,000. That's worth $1,000 3 years from now. What is that worth today? So that number here is saying A is equal to 1,000. So I can plug all of this into my formula. So I have PV is equal to 1,000 divided by 1 plus 0.045 divided by 4 to the exponent of 12. And please practice putting that into your calculator. And hopefully you got that your present value is $874.37. Okay, how much interest will he earn? So again, here, interest is equal to your amount minus your present value. So our amount here was 1,000. Subtract $8,704.37. So how much money are you earning in interest if you invest it for that length? And we have here that you will earn $125.63. Okay, going on to our last example, it says here, Nick borrowed some money from a trust company and will repay the loan in 2 years. The interest rate is 10.5% compounded monthly. Nick must repay $1,170.92 in 2 years. How much money did he borrow? Okay, anytime you're talking about borrowing, you're talking about the present value. Okay, so if that's how much he owes at the end of all of that time, that means he borrowed a certain amount. So I have to figure out what that is. How much did he borrow? That's the present value. How much did he borrow today if he has to pay $1,170.92 in 2 years? So again, I'm going to start by writing my present value formula. PV equals A over bracket 1 plus I to the exponent n. Okay, interest, 10.5% compounded monthly. So I write I is equal to 0.105 divided by 12. N is 2 times 12. And the amount that he owes at the end is $1,170.92. So I have all of that information there. And now I just have to plug it into my formula. So present value is equal to $1,170.92 divided by bracket 1 plus 0.105 divided by 2 to the exponent of 24. So I'll give you a minute. I want you to plug that into your calculator for me, please. Okay, here, so his present value is $342.92. That's how much he borrowed today. Now, when I want to calculate the interest on this, hopefully I did my calculations correct. I is equal to my amount subtract my present value. So my amount is $1,170.92 minus my present value here. So I have 1,170.92, subtract 342.92, and I get a total of $828. So that's how much interest he had to pay, which is a lot. You're only borrowing $342, but now you owe $828 plus the amount that you borrowed. So it's never really a good idea to get in debt. So you have questions at the bottom of the page. I'll take up any questions that you have tomorrow, so make sure that you get this done.